This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meatpackers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this week's edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of things that your Freedom Watch is working on, and nobody else is working on them. And let me give you the primary example. Just last week, our inert, our blowhard Attorney General, I call him Blowhard Bill Barr, or maybe Puxatani Bill Barr for the groundhog in Pennsylvania that runs back into its hole generally every February 2nd, gave a speech. And in that speech, he ripped into China that they steal our intellectual property, that they steal stuff from our businesses that are over their seas doing various matters, A to Z. Okay? Now, ask yourself this question. What has the Bill Barr Justice Department, or for that matter, any other Justice Department, done about China? Nothing. The same thing that he's done about James Comey. Nothing. The same thing he's done about Bruce Orr, the Lovebirds, Strzok and Page, Obama, the Clintons, Clapper, Brennan. He's even declared the Obamas and the Bidens off limits, that he won't investigate them. Now we know that his so-called great investigator, John Durham, is not going to issue a report until after the election. Of course, we know what's going to be in the report. Maybe they burn a lower-level official or two, but they're not going to hold the rich and powerful and the elite in Washington accountable. So, frankly, I'm tired of it, and I know you're tired of it. And it's one of the reasons why, as much as I love the president and as much as I support him personally in my personal capacity and will vote for him in my personal capacity, I don't say who I vote for as the head of Freedom Watch. It's a nonprofit. Fact is, he's losing supporters. It's one reason why he's going backwards in terms of the polls. The polls are not entirely wrong. This is not 2016. We don't have a completely hateable Hillary Clinton. In fact, what we've got is a non-entity, brain-dead individual by the name of Biden who hides in his basement. And that's the problem, is that the American people don't vote for someone, they vote against someone. That's how we got Bill Clinton. That's how we got George W. Bush. That's how we got Barack Obama. And that's how we got Donald Trump to some extent. And right now, the president needs to take action. Now, you know, his attorney general is absolutely worthless. The only thing the guy has done was to protect two Washington insiders. One, Mike Flynn, which I'm glad he did with the general, but he's part of the Washington elite. He's part of that establishment. And to some extent, by not raising heck with the president, allowing for the commutation of the sentence of Roger Stone, which never should have happened, which has cost the president votes potentially already, because the president is selling himself as the law and order president. And he should sell himself as that. But to be the law and order president, you actually have to do something for law and order. Now, China's a good example. China is destroying not just this country, but the entire world. This is communist China. The Chinese are good people, but not the communist leadership in Beijing. They released a bioweapon, no doubt about it. We have a lawsuit in Dallas, Texas. I've got two experts, Judy Mikovits and Francis Boyle, who will testify to that. Very renowned experts in virology and these kinds of viruses. And the fact is that China is responsible. Well, what does the president do? He signs the legislation, some legislation that was introduced by the Democrats and Pelosi, saying, well, we might bar some people from the United States. Well, that's not enough. People can see through that. It's Freedom Watch who has taken the action, and certainly not Trump's Justice Department. So that's why you should go to freedomwatchusa.org, support our cause, sign up for our class action, see if you qualify. We also have a criminal case in The Hague, Holland. Support that with tax-deductible contributions. And, of course, another one, a class action in Jerusalem, Israel. So this is the difference between what we see out of the administration right now. We are the real Justice Department. We have none. And I urge the president, because I want him to succeed, is that you've got to be assertive. You just can't wait for things to happen. And the Chinese are getting away scot-free as the coronavirus, according to some, is going crazy. Not just in California, not just in Florida, my home state, but everywhere. So the people are upset. The people want action. The people don't know what's going on. And the president is sinking faster than a rock politically. He needs to get out of the tailspin, and he needs to be more than proactive. He needs to be the law enforcement president. And that applies to the police as well. Just in Portland last week, these lunatics, these domestic terrorists, destroyed a federal building, in effect. They're out there creating another safe zone. I don't even know how to say it at this point. It's ridiculous. Their safe zone for domestic terrorists. It's going on in other cities. It's going on in Chicago. It's going on in Washington, D.C. It's going on in New York City. This is a jungle out there of terrorists, of radicals that want to kill not just white cops, particularly male cops, but they want to kill everybody that gets in their wake, anybody that they disagree with. Just a few weeks ago, these leftists, these terrorists, went into neighborhoods in Beverly Hills wearing T-shirts, "Eat the Rich." What are they, Jeffrey Dahmer? But that's a signal saying, we're going to kill you. We're waging a second Bolshevik revolution here. And the president is rocking back. Just last Friday morning, I see his Secretary of Homeland Security, guy named Wolf, I forget his name. It's not Matthew, that's the golfer. But Wolf saying, we think the local authorities should do more. You know what? The president has emergency powers. He can order the police to do their job. He can protect them, and he can make sure that they're respected. Now, again, it's Freedom Watch that is carrying the ball. Watch what we do next week. We're going to be bringing a lawsuit for police in the Philadelphia Police Department who were discriminated against on the basis of race, sex, and ethnicity because they're white cops or they're non-African American cops or they're non-Muslim cops. The DA in Philadelphia, a clown by the name of Larry Kasner, it's a shame he has the same name I do because it's a disgrace, was elected with the money from George Soros. The mayor was a political hack. The police commissioner, the former one that was removed for sexual harassment, and the new one, if you can believe it, her name is Danielle Outlaw. Perfect. She comes from Portland, where these lunatics are on the loose right now, looting and burning and maiming. They set up my clients. You'll see the case. And they either fired them or constructively fired them just for their private Facebook posts, which weren't racist. Okay, but they had to have some political cause. It's a way to dismantle the police department. It's a way for these domestic terrorists to try to take control of not just Philadelphia, my birthplace of liberty, but the country as a whole. And that is why Freedom Watch is doing the heavy lifting. Where is the Justice Department? And the president sits there. This is tough love, guys. And I know some people don't like the fact that I'm critical of the president. But you can't play political games. You can't sit back there and say, okay, the Democrats are making it themselves look bad. They're going to lose votes. You know what? The country's sinking faster than a rock. So when it comes to China, the communist Chinese, and when it comes to the police, president, step up to the plate. Be like Babe Ruth. We'll help you hit a home run pitch, more than 60 home runs. We'll help you hit 100 home runs or more than that. But we need your support. Now, why is it that the president has been so silent about what Freedom Watch has done for the last almost 4 years? We've been his de facto law firm. It undoubtedly was Roger Stone, his friend, who he let off the hook on 7 counts of perjury, obstruction of justice, and witness tampering for which he was convicted. He's a convicted felon. He wasn't going to do much time. But you know what? I don't care that others weren't prosecuted because Freedom Watch is prosecuting them with its citizens' grand juries. If you don't have a court system and a legal system where people are held accountable for lying under oath and threatening witnesses like Stone did, then we don't have a legal system at all. And we're in a revolutionary state. So we are in a revolutionary state. And that's where we find ourselves today. So I ask you to join Freedom Watch's Justice League. Share this radio show. Contribute with tax-deductible contributions. We need to get bigger. We are your Justice Department. Forget about the fat blowhard Bill Barr. Forget about secretaries of Health and Human Services, or for that matter, Homeland Security. I mean, these people are there. They're occupying space. They're taking up taxpayer time and dollars. But we, the American people, need to rise up. Now, I don't want to see the president lose in November, but if he does lose, there may be a silver lining to that the people are going to have to rise up to protect themselves, because we're not getting that protection right now. And you can bet that it won't be soon. It will be soon when you're going to have these domestic terrorists, these radical leftists, these radical blacks, radicals of the Jewish left, like Larry Kasner, DA in Philadelphia, elected with Soros's money, this Nazi collaborator Soros that confiscated the property of fellow Jews going to gas chambers and ovens. This is who is behind a lot of this. You're going to bet that they're in your neighborhood demanding the keys to your car, wanting your house, every piece of property, and potentially, quote, eating the rich, meaning killing you. So this is why I am talking so loudly, because no one else will do it. Everybody wants to be a member of the club. You know, I'm like Groucho Marx. I don't want to be a member of a club that would have me as a member, because you know what? That club is rotten to the core. When I ran for the U.S. Senate in 2003, I said, I don't want to be a member of the Senate club. I want to take a club to the Senate. Well, you know what? I'm better off outside of the Senate. I would only be one of 100 votes. God obviously wanted me to go off and do something else, and I have gotten that message. But I need your help. So go to freedomwatchusa.org, join our Justice League, see if you qualify for our class action against the communist Chinese. And I'm going to have a couple clients on right now who are brave and courageous. First, I'm going to have Stephen Stewart, who got wrapped up in the Bundy trials. And then I'm going to have KIARA Robles, a young woman who was assaulted by Antifa while the Berkeley police stood there twiddling their thumbs, smiling that she was getting the heck beaten out of them. I want you to listen to this, because this is the state of the nation today. And this is Freedom Watch that steps in on behalf of them. And we need you to join our Justice League. I'll be right back with Stephen Stewart.
Fearless.
He's claiming he's crazy, he's racist, he's out to kill the Democrats.
Dangerous.
Don't care, he uses the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special Prosecutor
Very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
I'm back with Stephen Stewart, my client, my friend, a very brave person who was victimized by the tyrannical federal government. He got wrapped up into the prosecution. Government had no evidence against him, spent nearly 2 years in jail. He was part of the peaceful people that came to Bunkerville to support the Bundys. And rather than doing the right thing, the prosecutors of the Department of Justice indicted everybody, and they threw Stephen into the mix. And he suffered by it in many ways, not just financially, emotionally. He's a very fine person. He's God-fearing. I want to introduce you to him. We're going to have him back next week again. But Stephen, say hello to our listeners, because you are a good example of the bravery that the American people need to exhibit right now as our country sinks deeper and deeper into a sea of corruption. Welcome to Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman.
Well, thank you for having me on, Larry, and thank you for that. Yeah, thank you for having me on. I did. I got railroaded by the United States government for reasons that were outside of my understanding.
Tell them about, what happened to you, just briefly, how you had to spend that much time in jail, how when they came to trial, they didn't even present any witnesses against you. They just throw you into the mix because they thought that was neat, and how they destroyed your life.
Right. I spent 523 days incarcerated because they would not give me any form of bond or bail. They accused me of being a terrorist of the United States of America, and all for standing there trying to, agreeing with it, just defending the First Amendment. We saw people that were being attacked for expressing their discontent with what the government was doing, and they decided to attack those people for speaking and being vocal. And they tried to stick them in a First Amendment pen somewhere 2 miles away from the problem that was happening, out in the middle of nowhere where nobody could hear them. And while that was going on, they, by the time I had showed up, the government, the prosecutors were already there planning some kind of big arresting thing, turning this thing into a crime of some sort. They were out there at Bunkerville before I was. I couldn't believe that. I found out later that my prosecutors were at this site well before I was on April 12, 2014, planning some form of prosecution for people just showing up expressing their First Amendment rights.
Now, fortunately, you were acquitted. I didn't represent you at that time. I do represent you now in a case for malicious prosecution against the prosecutors who brought a case without evidence and had you locked up in jail for nearly 2 years. But it's my understanding that your lawyers at the time didn't even bother to give a closing argument because they didn't need to. And you were acquitted, lickety split because the government simply had no evidence.
That's correct. My entire defense by the end was the 3 words, the defense rests, because they couldn't bring forth any evidence. As a matter of fact, some of the people that they brought forth, Maurice Martinez, his 302 stated that he could see gun barrels sticking through the Jersey barrier up there, and that was false. Nobody knew of anybody even sitting behind. They were scared, hiding from the government that was aiming guns at them, and they were accused of aiming guns back, but they never saw that. And when he got on the stand, he admitted that his 302 was false.
Now, what's really unfortunate here is I brought this lawsuit for you in Washington, D.C. It got signed to a judge by the name of Trevor McFadden, a Trump appointee. And the president, unfortunately, doesn't know who he appointed to the bench because establishment Republicans put those names in front of him, and he simply rubber stamped them. And this guy, Trevor McFadden, is frankly just a political hack. He dismissed the case. We're up in the D.C. circuit right now. The establishment represents itself, and they circle those wagons. But we're hoping for justice, and we're fighting hard against all odds because the average person in this country, like you, Stephen, is given the short shrift. You have to sit at the back of the bus. But the elite, if you are General Mike Flynn or Roger Stone, you get off. And Flynn should have. Stone should not have. But that's what goes on here. And that's why I think your story is so important, because you're an ordinary person, you're a good person, and you were harmed by this, and we're trying to get some justice for you. And Stephen, I'm going to bring you back next week, but I want to thank you for what you've done on behalf of the American people. Not just for yourself, but for everybody. God bless you.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
I'm back with my very brave client, a very fine woman by the name of KIARA Robles, who went to see a speech at the University of California at Berkeley, the home of communism, I might add, going all the way back to Professor Herbert Marcuse, Angela Davis, and company. It's gotten worse since then, since the Vietnam War. Radical left. She went to hear Milo Yiannopoulos speak, a conservative, a gay conservative. KIARA is also gay, so she had an interest in Milo for a lot of different reasons, also for his political philosophy. She's a Trump supporter. And what happened to her when she got there is that Antifa and other radical leftists attempted and did assault her, battered her, pepper sprayed her, hit her with a flagpole, could have killed her, as the Berkeley police, both of the university and the city, sat around twiddling their thumbs watching it happen. It's a story which needs to be told over and over again. KIARA is very brave, while our Attorney General and Justice Department do nothing about Antifa, and the president talks about it, but he's not doing anything either. He should be having his Justice Department join us, is that KIARA brought a lawsuit. It wound up in front of a federal judge, Claudia Wilkins, highly leftist, someone who went to the University of California, Berkeley Law School, taught there for 8 years, a leftist political hack. We just talked about a Trump-appointed political hack, Trevor McFadden. That's something that we're going to talk about in my book that's coming out soon, which is It Takes a Revolution, Forget the Scandal Industry, because our judges are not protecting us. They're the biggest threat to the continued existence of this country, in my opinion, in the federal branch, not so much in the state courts. There are some good judges. I was in front of one this morning in the Western District of Texas, but very few. But tell us about your story, KIARA, because that judge attempted to have your case dismissed by knocking me off as your lawyer, and also our local counsel, Mike Kolodny, because he couldn't continue without me financially. We took it up on the Ninth Circuit. The Ninth Circuit recently allowed the case to go forward against an individual by the name of Mirabal, who's a member of Antifa. We are seeking justice. But tell us your whole story here. We've got some time. The American people need to understand what goes on, and they need to understand that people like you and Freedom Watch are doing the heavy lifting, that our Justice Department is nowhere to be found.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on, and thanks for taking this case, so many years back already. So this was back in 2017, I believe. It was at the UC Berkeley event, and I think at the time, really nobody had heard of Antifa in the country outside of a couple of different animal rights groups. And I know the inauguration had some traction with Antifa, but I think the event at Berkeley was probably the most watched Antifa event, or the first watched Antifa event for the country. And really what I was doing, I find politics interesting, right? So I was going just to see a political event. I had bought 10 tickets to go with some friends. I did not know that this was going to be a setup, and that's honestly what I think it was. For instance, we were told, you're not allowed to bring flashlights or any kinds of weapons or firecrackers, which of course no one's bringing anyway, but you couldn't bring anything, even like a backpack, right? So the people who were actually attending the event were told not to bring anything to it. And, the situation was made as dangerous as possible by the administration, which I hear is sort of a tactic to sort of push out controversial speakers. So if you can't actually, not allow a speech to happen, what you can do is make it very impractical to happen. So they can put you in a smaller room, or at least in our case, they were making the event go on at night, which is incredibly dangerous in retrospect. But of course, being naive and not really knowing Antifa at the time, I had no idea what was going to occur. So I went there with my 10 friends, and there are already fires going on. It was a bit. You have to understand that, when the country wasn't as aware of Antifa at the time. So for me, being as naive as I was giving a speech to a reporter live saying, hey, I think it's really great for people to be protesting peacefully, but I don't really see anyone doing that here. I don't see anyone doing that at all. Yes, people may be peaceful in a moment, but if everyone's wearing black, using the black bloc technique, which for people who aren't familiar, it's basically a technique where you show up to a protest, quote unquote, riot, and you wear all black so that some people in the crowd can commit violence. And even though you might not be, you might be there peacefully, the people who are committing violence can come rush into the crowd and hide because you all look so similar. More dystopian things, people were holding signs that said love, not hate, but they were actually shield signs. So it would be a piece of wood carved out as a shield, and then they would beat people with the shields. I guess I'm sort of skipping ahead at this point, but I was giving an interview with some journalist there, and of course he's giving me a hard time, why are you here? Why are you here? It's well, I'm here for a speech. Why is anyone here? I'm still sort of confused about all of the chaos that was going on around me. And before I could even end that interview, I was being maced live And then, of course, the reporter freaks out. Everyone sort of disperses. And not 5 minutes later, the whole thing happens again, but this time much, much, much worse, where the group that I was with was getting beaten with batons, flagpoles. It was 10 of us with maybe 1,000 Black Bloc Antifa people. So it was a very dangerous situation. And one of the things it's very odd about these types of events is that responsibility is dispersed among the crowd. So if a violent act occurs, almost no individual feels responsibility help because there's so many other people witnessing. So no one would help me, even though I had mace in my eyes. I couldn't see. At the time, I didn't even know for sure that it was mace. All I knew is that I could see. It's extremely painful, the second time. There's different degrees of this kind of stuff. But it's very terrifying to not know, to not be in control of your surrounding like that. And, you'd think the police would step in, but not only did they not step in, they were told, I suspect they were told to not help anyone who this was going on against. So they were literally maybe 6 feet away from us behind glass, could see the whole thing happening and did nothing. Apparently they don't have to. So there are all these things that I learned about the justice system through this process. Another one is the court system, as you were talking about. I was completely unaware that you could get liberal judges and they don't have to. They could just get rid of cases like they have been doing.
Yeah, well, they think they have that right, and they don't have that right. There's a case by the name of Bell Atlantic versus Twombly that says that if a complaint has any degree of plausibility, the judge must let it continue on to discovery and then to trial. But they've turned that on its head, saying, well, we as judges get to decide what's plausible or not. We are God. We will decide. And that's the problem with federal judges, because they think they're there for life, although the Constitution really doesn't give them life tenure. It just says they can serve for good behavior. And in fact, they can be removed for bad behavior, notwithstanding high crimes and misdemeanors. And that's what we saw here. This judge is corrupt. Her name is Claudia Wilkins. She didn't want it to go forward against her alma mater at Berkeley. That's a little community up there. It's a little leftist cabal. And she's in Oakland in the court there. The San Francisco's no better. It's probably even worse. These are the courts that have continuously enjoined President Trump's immigration policies. They enjoined the border wall, only to be reversed later on. There are some good judges there, like Judge Ronald Gould, and he's a liberal. There are some honest liberals out there, and my hat's off to him. But most of them are a bunch of political hacks. And that's what happened here. I was your lawyer for a year, and then all of a sudden, Berkeley comes in and says, Klayman shouldn't be a lawyer because he has a matter going on with the bar in D.C., which wasn't even resolved at the time. And they knocked me off. She knocked me off. She used that as an opportunity. And all that was left was local counsel, Michael Kolodny, who couldn't continue on financially, and he was there just to do filings, and she knew that. And therefore, she then took that as an opportunity, even after I moved to have her disqualified for her bias and prejudice, to dismiss the case. So we went up to the Ninth Circuit. We argued it a few weeks ago. You saw it, KIARA, on Zoom, because it was made public, and I give the Ninth Circuit credit for allowing people to see what goes on over there. I do give them that credit. And the judges said that the case could, at a minimum, go forward with regard to the Antifa person, one of them, who attacked you. So at least that's good news. And we are going to be refiling the case. We're going to go into state court, keep it away from this particular judge. But you were the first. You were the first to take on Antifa. And now they've grown into this monster, along with other radicals of all varieties and stripes, that are trying to take down the country. And I'm sitting here looking at it, and my opening monologue, so to speak, was about this. And we have a Justice Department under Trump that just talks. Now, we both love the president, but he's got to step in here. I mean, it's not enough to say to local police, you do the job. Well, what did the local police do for you, right? And I'm not knocking the police.
Zero.
I have family who are in the police in Philadelphia, used to be, and I'm representing them, okay, good police. But these police, you were right, they had their hands tied behind their back by a corrupt city government and a corrupt university called Berkeley.
Right. Right. And what I suspect was that there was an actual stand-down order, which is what I would have loved to hear in some sort of discovery, because some police officers actually came forward and voiced their discontentment with the way they were forced to handle that situation. They were not allowed to do anything. And that's what I've heard from the Berkeley police, and that's extremely troubling. Whether that came from the mayor or if that came from the university, that's something that the public has the right to know. I mean, it's so far-fetched that we can't even get anything done about it, but we don't even get to know if that's what happened.
Well, yeah, and because they protect Berkeley. That's what happens in this country. The elite and the powerful get protected. And, one of the comments that was made by the Ninth Circuit judge, I forget his name, just a few weeks ago when we had the oral argument, when I said that Antifa were domestic terrorists, and he said, "Oh my God, are you calling them like Nazis?" Right? You remember that? And and I said, "Yeah, I am, Your Honor. Exactly. That's what they are. They're fascists. They claim they're anti-fascists. They're fascists, and you can't let these people roam loose." And that's what we see today as New York City's destroyed, Chicago's destroyed, Portland is being destroyed as we speak.
It's a lot of individual lives are destroyed as well because, the communist agenda that's at the top of this stuff is not necessarily what the people who are actually on the ground. I mean, they're just brainwashed, It's like what I've seen it because I lived in Berkeley. The type of people that join Antifa, it's not as if they, the only book they've ever read is the Communist Manifesto. They probably haven't even read that. They're just like angry people. They're angry people, and they've been told that this is how, you can be a good person, is you can, fight Nazis or something like that. It's completely ridiculous, and they're just getting taken advantage of. They're these pawns,
they're like freaks. I remember when I was in court in Oakland at one of the hearings that we had in this case in front of Judge Wilkins, some of them came in to try to intimidate me sitting, in the gallery, and they were dressed like clowns, like out of some kind of Stephen King novel. I mean, it was really freaky.
No, I don't mean to say that they're not dangerous. Like, they're extremely troubled people, but they've been given an ideology on a platter that fits their predisposition for violence and chaos. It's not as if they're not intellectual about it. It's not like a deeply rooted belief. It comes from their emotion first, which, I'm sort of psychoanalyzing here, but that was definitely, they're all chanting the exact same thing when you're in these crowds. It's so dystopian. They'll be chanting things like love, not hate, while nearly beating someone to death.
Well, they're probably drugged out too. That probably contributes to it, So it wouldn't surprise me on mushrooms, on ecstasy, God knows what. Cocaine. They probably can't afford the cocaine. Well, maybe Soros buys it for them. Who knows? But
yeah, they probably can't.
Right. But in any event, I guess we got to have some humor. But you could have been killed, KIARA, and I take my hat off to you. You're a great person. And the American people owe you a great debt of gratitude, as is true for some of my other clients as well. So thank you. We're going to have you back. We're going to be refiling this case against the Antifa member Mirabal. And stay tuned. God bless you, KIARA. Take care.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
Now the verdict, ladies and gentlemen. You just heard from two true American patriots, Stephen Stewart, KIARA Robles. I have many as my clients. And that's the difference between Freedom Watch today and what I used to do at Judicial Watch. Judicial Watch has little to no clients, basically. It's mostly freedom of information. If you don't have actual clients who are brave and will stick their neck out, then you don't have standing to bring lawsuits. And we have a lot of hard-hitting lawsuits, not just to get documents. We do that too. But we also are bringing cases to try to bring about change. And you have to keep punching, punching, and eventually you break through. And just in the last few weeks, we did break through in one case that I brought. This was in my private capacity for Chief Justice Roy Moore when he sued Sacha Baron Cohen for defaming him as a pedophile. And of course, Cohen tries to hide behind the veneer of being a comedian, satire. Well, the case is continuing on, quite to the surprise of the dishonest law firm that represents Cohen. And I won't name names in this show because these people are out there all the time running interference for this major mainstream media that's the fake news that's defaming everybody. Much to their surprise, an Obama-appointed federal judge, take my hat off to him, Andrew Carter, an honest guy, allows the case to proceed by the grace of God. So we will be deposing Sacha Baron Cohen. We will moving into discovery. We hope to get to trial, and we hope to hold him accountable. And that's why we keep pushing. We keep pushing, and we try to do it peacefully and legally. Freedom Watch also has grand juries, citizens' grand juries. We're going to be holding the same criminals, Comey, McCabe, Brennan, Clapper, Obama, Biden. We've already held Mueller accountable. He was indicted last fall. We'll be reconvening those grand juries to indict everybody that deserves to be indicted and then trying them and sentencing them and meting out justice peacefully and legally. But we are doing the job of our Justice Department. And this is very, very important because the American people need to know that they have their own fate in their own hands. Now, the book that I just wrote, It Takes a Revolution, that's a play off of Hillary Clinton's It Takes a Village. We're not socialists like she is, and we're more like the village people, I might add, than her Takes a Village. But it's called It Takes a Village, Forget the Scandal Industry. It says, stop being entertained by Fox News, who, by the way, just defamed Chief Justice Moore the same way as Cohen did, and watch what happens there. It's not the first time that Fox has done something like that. And watch what we do, because read that book. It's you can pre-order it on Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble by other booksellers, because I'm not there pounding my chest like Tom Fitton does. I mean, what I'm saying is I haven't accomplished enough in my career, is that a lot of it, some of these judges, even Judge Lambert, it's been a dog and pony show, is that right now the country's slipping away. And we need to find another way to wage a peaceful second American revolution. Now's not the time to high five, to be broadcasting out another Judicial Watch victory because you got documents. If we don't have a victory in terms of saving the country with hard-hitting lawsuits, with citizens' grand juries, with educating the American people, with trying to convince President Trump to use his authority and his powers to rein in the communist Chinese, to hold them accountable for the trillions and trillions of dollars of damage and damage to our health that they've caused, or to take control of local police departments and protect them so they can do their job, not like they did with KIARA, but like they should be doing on a moment-by-moment basis before this country completely is destroyed by these radical leftists, then we aren't doing our job. And I'm not here to crow about who I am, okay? I'm going to be 69 in just a day or so. I know who I am. I know what I've done. And frankly, I haven't done enough. And I need your help. So go to freedomwatchusa.org. Sign up for our Justice League. You are the superheroes. You are Batman. You are Wonder Woman. You are the Flash. You are Aquaman. You are the people who can make a difference. And get up off the couch, as I say. Forget about cable news. Turn it off. Stop being entertained and join us, because we are waging a second American revolution. I want to thank you always for listening to me. Thank you for being the ethical and good people that you are. I'll be back next week with another edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. Until then, God bless. Be very, very safe. God is with us, but we must help ourselves. Thank you for listening to me. See you next week.